Good Monday evening, everybody. Welcome back to another video. Been a minute, but apparently I took like a small break. So I'm only going to film one video for you guys tonight and then film a couple more tomorrow. But I want to get this video out like tomorrow. So tonight's video is going to be my book versus movie on American Psycho. So I did a similar video to this when I talked about Dark Harvest last year, and this is kind of like my second try at it. But of course, I've seen like many other movies based on books. But this is officially my second one. So I'm going to get a little drink here. That's a drink of a new generation. Pepsi. Okay, anyway, American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis was released in 1991 to very critical acclaim. And this book is about Patrick Bateman, which is a very popular Wall Street yuppie. He's into beautifying himself, and he's friends with everybody in his social circle, and he also has like a fiance he's about to marry, but he's hiding a very, very dark secret. He is a nihilistic serial killer by night, and he preys on call girls and hookers. So that's pretty much this entire book. Now let's get into what I like about this book. And once this book gathers steam, I say around like when he first kills the first victim of his, and that is like a homeless person. He just like stabs out the homeless person's eyes, then just annihilates his dog. That's when he like really becomes psychotic. But the famous scene in this book and movie is the Paul Owen death. And there's going to be some spoilers in here, so I definitely got things to say. So bear with me. The Paul Owen death is very brutal. So Paul Owen is kind of like a Wall Street yuppie as well, and he is in charge of a certain account, and Patrick Bateman kind of feels left out on that whole thing. So he meets him for a dinner, and then they go back to Patrick Bateman's apartment, and in the book it's less memorable in the movie. The book just goes straight to the head. No pun intended. So Patrick Bateman just swings an axe at Paul Owen's head and just splits it in two. But in the movie, he plays hip to be square and he has that Huey Lewis and the News discography monologue with Paul Owen, and it just goes off the wall. He just says, "Hey, Paul!" and just slaps him in the head with an axe. Yeah, it's pretty rough. But that scene doesn't even happen until... Let me find the page. I know it's in like the 200s. That scene doesn't even happen until 214, and then goes to 221. So it's 7 pages long, but that scene in the movie like happens like 30 minutes into it, and it is very quick. So there is a lot that is left out of the movie because the book is so graphic and very controversial, of course. But that is probably like the most recognizable scene in the book and movie. So there are other very, very graphic deaths that he does to women. And I'm just gonna like sugarcoat it. When we get to the chapter, the first chapter of Girls, it's extremely graphic on the sex. And he just essentially like stabs these 2 women very brutally and just like leaves them in his apartment, and it starts stinking up the place. He meets his ex-girlfriend by the name of Bethany, and he like literally uses a nail gun on her, and that is pretty rough. There is another one where he like has another couple girls, and this is probably going to be the most graphic that I'm going to talk, so bear with me. He like literally puts like jumper cables to one of the girls' nipples and just fries her to death, and then he just decapitates one, and he performs oral sex with the decapitated head. Yeah. So yeah, some very rough stuff in here. And then one of the last deaths in here is probably the most gnarliest. He just like cuts a woman in half with a chainsaw. And yeah. And not to mention, he also goes into the zoo and lures a 5-year-old kid. And he wants to see if the kid wants a cookie. Stabs him to death. And then the rest of this book, I would say about like 40 or 50 pages left in the book. It's just pure chaos. He just like goes around Manhattan and shoots up the place. He had to have killed at least close to 100 people just in this book. And it is very, very rough. So, this is considered to be like a black comedy with extremely graphic, violent content and extremely graphic sexual content as well. So, if you would enjoy this, I would go into it and maybe watch the movie first. Because the movie, of course, is very toned down, but there is one still very graphic sex scene in here. And he just plays like Phil Collins when he's just like getting it on with these two chicks. And it's like a porno almost. But this book stays with you. It still stays with me. I've been thinking about it ever since I like finished it last week. And I really do enjoy this book, despite how dark and graphic it is. But it is just an overall fantastic book. The writing style in the beginning, though, is what turned me off. Because it was kind of like page after page of what everybody was wearing. I was like, can he, like, kill people now? No, but anyway, this book knows what it is, and it captures the 80s aesthetic perfectly. And I gave this 4 stars on Goodreads, but I'm really ramping it up to 5 stars because I think it really is a good book, but it's not for everybody. And I say that with sincerity. So if you really like horror and want to go a little bit darker, I highly recommend this, but just go into it knowing that this is called American Psycho. So this dude is a psychotic nutcase anyway. So, a little bit about the book, and I'll talk about the movie here as well. So, that's the book. The movie follows the book almost to a T, but of course it like leaves out a lot of stuff. I reiterated on that, so that stars Christian Bale, Willem Dafoe, Josh Lucas, Jared Leto, Reese Witherspoon, and even Chloe Sevigny. And, of course, the scene where Paul Owen gets killed is my favorite part in this. But when he chases one of the call girls, it's a very harrowing scene that mirrors Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He just like chases her from his apartment in the nude, and he's just wielding a chainsaw, and he just like follows the steps and just drops it, and it lands right on her. So there was no hope for this girl to live. It's very chilling. And I do say when it gets to like the climax, it's handled very well, and he almost acts scared in a way because he knows that he's about ready to get caught. And the moral of the story is just be careful who you run into, and don't go home with strangers. Especially Patrick Bateman. So the ending to the book and movie very creepy because you know that he got away scot-free and nobody caught him, and he can still do his murderous rampage. And especially, I love Christian Bale in this role. I think this is one of his best performances pre Dark Knight trilogy, of course. And I gotta mention this. In the very beginnings of this movie, he always has like a Walkman that he's listening to even as he works. And he like walks into his workforce, Pearson Pierce. He's listening to Walking on Sunshine by Katrina and the Waves. And he's just had this stone face. You know this dude's a psychopath if he don't smile while listening to this song. It's the most bizarre moment in here out of many. And God, what else do I have to say? I do like his whole social circle. I mean, all of his friends are kind of like douchebags as well. But I mean, that was the 80s and they were all into like sex and coke. And it's just an overabundance on just the 80s in the movie and the book. So I really do enjoy the movie a little bit more than the book, because the book is a little slow, but once it ramps up, it gets better. The movie is much more well-paced, and it's very bizarre. But I really do enjoy both the book and movie. Am I glad I read it? No, but it was just a little much at parts. And I also got to mention that this has a killer soundtrack. I mean, Phil Collins, Whitney Houston, Huey Lewis and the News, Chris de Burgh, Lady in Red, Walking on Sunshine, like I said, and many, many more popular 80s songs were just embedded in this movie. This is one of my all-time favorite horror movies, and American Psycho, the novel, is one of my all-time favorite horror novels as well. So I highly recommend both of them, but know that they are very graphic and dark. So those are my thoughts on both American Psycho 2000 and American Psycho 1991. So, hope you guys enjoyed this little mini deep dive into this fantastic novel, if you want to call it fantastic. And I'm hoping to do more of this type of video in the near future. There are many other movies based upon books that I would like to include as an episode on the channel. So hopefully I'll do more of these and look out for them. But those are my thoughts on American Psycho, book and movie. So hope you guys enjoyed, and tomorrow I'm finally going to give you my thoughts on The First Omen and Monkey Man. So I saw those over the weekend, and don't know why I didn't give you guys a review on them yet, but I will definitely give you a review on both of them tomorrow. So, adios, peace.